What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Canadian Football Fanatics, and thank you for tuning in to another video. Episode 37 coming at you guys today, and we are going to be joined by Taylor Elgersma, Laurier Golden Hawks quarterback, NFL, CFL draft prospect. You guys have probably heard Taylor's been all in the headlines in the news of the Canadian football to start 2025. Taylor has attended 3 different bowl games, including the College Gridiron Showcase, the Tropic Bowl, and of course the Reese Senior Bowl that, to the mainstream, maybe the United States media kind of just absolutely blew up. And I know he's been very, very busy and would like to thank Taylor for the multiple times that we have already just for taking up some time and jumping on the podcast here today. Excited to get to our guest in a few moments. But before we get to Taylor Elgersma, we have some exciting news, folks. And we have our very first sponsor here on the YouTube channel, on the platform, I guess is what we should call it, on the Canadian Football Fanatics. Before we get to who is our first official sponsor, if you guys would like to become a sponsor with us, you guys can reach us on our many different social media platforms, as well as mine or Blake's personal social media platforms as well. You guys can find that in the description. We'll include that in today's video as well. So our first sponsor we would like to announce is going to be Area 51 Sports. I know it's been teased a little bit in the past on our Instagram page, and that's why I say platforms instead of just a YouTube channel, because we're going to be offering a sponsorship to our various platforms. Or of course, we're on Twitter as well. So having the opportunity to get out your company out to 3 of our different Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube. What we are offering is, of course, advertisement, which you guys are going to see coming up on our episode graphics, as well as our BC Lions post game and preview shows, and a 30-second ad read, which we are going to include right here. So attention, fanatics. This episode is brought to you by Area 51 Sports, your one-stop shop for all football needs. Whether you're looking for top-notch footballs, helmets, shoulder pads, cleats, gloves, or even flag football gear and custom uniforms, Area 51 has got you covered. Trusted by athletes at every level, they're dedicated to helping you play your best, gear up, and dominate the field. Visit their website today at area51sports.ca and take your game to the next level. Now, let's continue to the episode. All right, folks. So, like I said, that will include a 30-second ad read every episode. We are currently looking for one more sponsor to jump on our episodes. So, what we're going to do is offer 2 sponsorships, kind of per our different shows here on the Canadian Football Facts. Of course, we have our episode videos. And then, of course, Blake and I will be doing our BC Lions post game, which we'll be looking for a sponsor for, one for each of the different shows. So one for the post game show, one for the preview show. And we'll probably tend to look towards more of a Vancouver/BC connection with some of those sponsorships. But like I was saying, we will include a 30-second ad read in every single one of our videos that you are sponsored for. And depending on kind of the packages that we can work out, the fine folks at Area 51, shout out to Carlo and the rest of the folks over at Area 51. They sent us over a pretty significant sized box of their composite Rouge footballs to do some content with, and we've been doing some giveaways, and we have some stuff being worked on behind the scenes of what we want to do with some of those footballs, and some of that content will be coming out to you guys in the future. But for that, because of what Carlo and Area 51 gave us, we're going to be doing this for the rest of the year for them. So depending on kind of the packages, like I said, we can work out. We can do it on a 10 episode basis or a 10 show basis. We can get your logos. You guys will see once Taylor joins us in the graphics each episode during all the episode, and we can maybe even include some of the include a poll question that's sponsored by you or whatnot or something like that. So like I said, feel free to get at us on our social media platforms as well as our personal social media as well. So I guess that's a good reminder to just remind you where you guys can find us on social media, and that is at Canadian Football Fanatics on Instagram, at _CF Fanatics on Twitter or X, and of course on YouTube, you guys can find us at Canadian Football Fanatics. So A few reminders before we get into the show here today. We have our prospect series coming up, and this is, I guess, kind of somewhat starting that off, our prospect series with Taylor Elgersma joining us here today. We're going to be joined by a few guests that will be attending the CFL's Invitational Combine, and those will be announced very soon. We have a guest, two guests that are, we'll give you a couple hints. They play their football, they play their USports football in the Canada West, and we'll leave it at that. We will have about 2, maybe 3 episodes coming out for our prospect series before they go to the Invitational Combine at the end of February here. And then as well has been in the headlines the last few weeks, the national team, the senior men's national team for Team Canada will be playing in a qualifying game in, I believe, end of February as well in the next couple of weeks. We are going to be somewhat doing a Team Canada deep dive, having hopefully maybe head coach of the senior men's national team, Coach Maddox, on. We're also going to be having on quarterback and running back of the squad. We're going to be having on Michael O'Connor, already been on the, I guess, previous rebranded Coast to Coast Gridiron before we rebranded to Canadian Football Fanatics. We had Mike on about, I want to say 2 years ago now. And then Jamel Lyles, former BC Lion, Edmonton Elk, spent some time with the West Shore Rebels, and of course with the Manitoba Bisons. He's going to be one of the tailbacks that is going to be repping the red and white for Team Canada. So I'm going to be having a few guests on for them as well in the coming days, coming episodes. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be very, very, very busy, folks. So along with those guests that will be joining us, we are going to be having, of course, I promised, some Justin McInnes, Jalen Philpott, I believe, are still in the works and still coming. They're, of course, enjoying their off season. Justin is enjoying his off season, so we have that plan, but just waiting for them to have some availability. And some other ones. Christian Covington hopefully is going to be coming down the pipe. Trying to think of some other ones that we have lined up. So we have quite a bit of content behind the scenes going on, and we're going to be pumping that out to you guys in the coming, I want to say weeks, but probably honestly months here. So it's going to be an exciting time here at the Canadian Football Fanatics. So make sure you guys are not missing out. And how you guys can do that is make sure you guys are following on all platforms, as well as turning on notifications on all platforms and just pressing the notification bell. If you guys are tuning in on YouTube today, you guys will get notified every single time we upload any video, go live, YouTube Shorts. You name it, we upload it. You guys will get a notification to your phone, and it's a good way of staying in touch with the Canadian Football Fanatics. So I think that's all the reminders for today. Like I said, big shout out to everyone at Area 51 Sports for the sponsorship, specifically Carlo at the top. And of course, it's actually a good segue. Today's guest is actually a NIL of Area 51 Sports, Taylor Elgersma. So let's send it to the Taylor Elgersma show right now. All righty, Fanatics. Joining me now is this past year's Heck Crighton Trophy winner. He was a first-team All-Canadian as well as a back-to-back OUA MVP. Laurier Golden Hawks quarterback Taylor Elgersma. Taylor, thanks for joining me. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Like I was saying, I know how busy you've been, so I really appreciate you jumping back on and kind of doing the whole song and dance once again. I know everybody's been wanting to get a hold of you and kind of hear about your journey, man. So that was like what I was saying. I just wanted to have you on, and kind of what we've been doing here is just having people on to hear about their journey from, the beginnings of kind of their football career and then up into, hopefully you have a long story ahead of you here in the many years to come. So like I was saying, I know you've been busy, but before we get to what you've been doing recently, let's take it back to just the start of your football career. And from what I hear, it's a pretty unique one. And I know you've talked about it before of not starting football until grade 10. And from what I hear, you were a hockey player, defenseman, and enforcer. And judging by the hockey game last night, Team Canada might have needed you on the ice there, buddy. But I'm curious, share a little bit about kind of that unique path to football and maybe what attracted you to the game, and what maybe you loved about the game that kind of drew you towards it.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there with some of those things. Like you said, I was a hockey player growing up, and so I got a little bit of late start to football, not starting until, high school. And, there's a couple things that drew me to the game. I mean, first, we needed a quarterback on my high school team, and one of my buddies just saw me out there throwing and was like, dude, come on out. I think you could be a great quarterback for us. And I ended up coming out, and as soon as I started playing football, I fell in love with it. I think that football for me provides a sport that I get to, have the best of both worlds when I compared to hockey. I get to be, the leader, but I also get to use my, cerebral abilities, quarterbacks in 90% cerebral position, and, being able to make decisions with the ball, being able to understand schemes and develop, my mental side of my game more than anything was something that I really fell in love with football with right away. And then obviously, you still get to, have the physical side of the game. Football is an extremely violent and physical sport. And so I think being able to play a sport that, used all my best attributes, leadership, IQ and, physical abilities really is what made me fall in love with it.
You hear about, the measurables and stuff like that, and obviously you have those with, your size and your weight and stuff like that. But I'm curious, looking at kind of some of your high school highlight films and stuff like that, and some of the numbers you were putting up. I believe that grade 11 season you had up around 25 total touchdowns or something like that. It appeared like it was coming very natural to you as it was very new to you. I'm curious, you living in your own shoes, was it that way, or did it kind of, maybe take you an adjustment period to come, to get to the level, I guess, that maybe you aren't at today, but like I said, the grade 11 season and grade 12 season, you getting a scholarship to, Laurier.
Yeah, I think that, of course, there's always an adjustment period when you're making a transition to sports or when you're making a transition, from levels within the game. But, I will say that football came, very naturally to me. Once I started playing the game, I realized that I was a lot better at football than I ever was at hockey, and that, this was the sport and the position that, God had made me for. And so I think that as much as, there was, a growing period of transitioning late and playing high school ball and, playing club ball outside of high school, playing for the Junior Mustangs organization. I think that, it was definitely something that, I excelled very quickly at and was able to kind of realize, quite early on that this was the path that I was designed for.
So talk a little bit about your journey at it is Oakridge Secondary School, and you mentioned there, a few times I've heard you mention, your buddies and the brotherhood that football brings and stuff like that, and even with your Laurier teammates now. Talk a bit about those 3 years that you spent at Oakridge playing football, and just the bonds that you created. And you hear people that have these tweets on social media and whatnot are like, man, you'll never get back the days of playing Friday night footballs with your buddies and stuff like that, and just some of the memories that you have from your high school football career.
Yeah, I think that, that's something that high school football is, kind of unique to. I mean, obviously in university you get, a very similar experience or even kind of enhanced experience living with those guys. But being a young high school player and being able to play with your friends, high school football, a lot of guys choose to play. And so, being able to be out there with your best friends. And so for me, some of those guys were, the guys that I grew up with who I got to play with in grade 9, grade 10, but then also, the guys that I played Junior Mustangs with, like Brett Timbeck, Kalen Brosnan, Caden Judgeall, all those guys I played with outside of, high school, and we really, committed together to working together for Oakridge. And I think that, for me, like, Oakridge was not a super, um, high school football elite team, before us. And I think that, the group that we had, kind of, hopefully changed the trajectory of Oakridge and made it more of an attractive football playing school for guys that were already in the school, but also for, future kids to play there. And so I think that, that was kind of a unique situation for us, is that, we had kind of jumped up from a lower tier to the higher tier in our grade 11 year. We had some success. And so, being able to, be with those guys and develop with those guys and work hard with those guys was a great experience for me.
You talked about your development, and I'm curious, something being from BC and having a few buddies that moved out to and attended and got scholarships, Western and stuff like that. They mentioned of the club scene out there, and the Junior Mustangs and stuff like that. And you've already mentioned it a few times here already. I'm curious of maybe what you could speak on of what that did to your development. And obviously, in high school football, you're maybe using some of your raw abilities and some of your natural athleticism. But going to Junior Mustangs, I think I've heard you talk about it a few times. Of maybe that was where the development side of playing quarterback started to come in. Could you just kind of touch on that side of things for a little bit?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that, obviously, with the Canadian high school system, your best players always assemble together and play travel football in the summers. And so that comes with, a higher level of coaching staff, a higher level of playbook, a higher level of, game speed. And so for me, being able to, play Junior Mustangs and develop under coaches that were implementing, systems that were similar to university systems was really important for me in my development and kind of taking that next step and becoming a really good quarterback. And so I think that, playing for coaches like Matt Snyder or Coach Urselli and being able to, be exposed to their ways of seeing the game and try new things for me. Matt runs a very, high RPO style offense. He obviously runs the ball very effectively, but he puts, decisions in the quarterback's hands. And then, Coach Urselli down at Windsor ran kind of a pro style, pure progression offense that's similar to what, the University of Windsor runs now. And so being able to, get reps in those systems and develop as a quarterback there was super important for me.
Okay, so your grade 12 season ends, and you're thinking, I want to continue to play football. Being a London, Ontario kid, I'm curious of what went into this decision. Obviously, you mentioned, some of your coaches with the Junior Mustangs, and I believe they went on to University of Windsor, and then obviously the ties to Western, and could have very well stayed home. What separated Laurier, and just what made you decide to go to the Golden Hawks?
Yeah, there was a bunch of things that obviously go into that decision-making process, and Western was definitely up there in schools that I was considering, going to. Like you said, they obviously have a very, strong tie with the Junior Mustangs, and Coach Marshall and that entire staff has been, winning for such a long time. But for me, Laurier really separated themselves for a couple reasons. One, talk about coaching staffs. Coach Falls and me are, wired so similarly, and I wanted to come play for him. We had just gotten Coach Galloway as our offensive coordinator. That was the first season that he was here at Laurier when I committed to Laurier, and I really wanted to be a part of his system and his offensive scheme because I knew, that he could really develop me as a decision maker, develop me, by allowing me to have a lot of control of the offense by, just the system that he runs. You see, different type of universities. Western's obviously a school that, they play a certain brand of football and sometimes that limits, quarterback development. And I think that, Coach Galloway really, allows quarterbacks to excel in their development. So I wanted to play for him. And then obviously the other thing for me was I wanted to go to a school where I could, help build that championship culture. I wanted to go to a place where, we had the pieces in place, but we hadn't done it yet. And so Laurier was kind of that perfect fit for me where I could be part of a group of guys that was here to build that, standard, set that culture and kind of bring that group up to the level that we wanted it to and hopefully leave the school in a better place than we found it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Coach Galloway, Coach Folds. Obviously, I'm curious. You mentioned that kind of, I guess, length of leash that they gave you, of kind of letting you do your own thing and stuff like that. Could you just talk a little bit more of kind of what they've meant for you? And we've seen them, obviously, they traveled down to Mobile and watched you at the Senior Bowl and stuff like that, and just supported you in, I'm sure, the best way possible and stuff like that. But walking that line of kind of letting you go off on your own and kind of being able to handle the offense on your own, but as well as kind of having that hand on your hip, as well as guiding you and kind of being those leaders for you in the time that you spent at Laurier. Just how much do they mean to you? And going forward, I'm sure you're going to be able to kind of continue to lean on them going forward here.
100%. Both of those, men have meant so much for me. And I'll start with Coach Galloway. Like when I talk about, being able to allow me to have control, I talk about, the type of offense that he runs. He allows quarterbacks to make decisions. He allows quarterbacks to develop and grow. And he gives you more, you can use the term leash as you, earn it and you earn trust. And so, from the very start of my, journey at Laurier, me and Coach Galloway have worked extremely close together. We've met every single day for the past, you could say 5 years, including COVID, and develop together. And obviously, the start of your, journey underneath him, he's going to, have, a lot of pure progressions in there for you. Teach you defenses, teach you offensive schemes, and then as you grow within the system, you are allowed to kind of progress with him, and he's really good at adapting to what the offensive strengths are and what your strengths are as a player. And I think for me and him, we had a really good relationship and still obviously do. But when I was playing there, I had a really good relationship. But he understood what my strengths were, and a lot of that was pre-snap decision making. And so being able to check protections or check concepts versus different looks that we saw, and the way that he called games, he understood that he could call a shot on one side and a quick game on the other side and allow me to really make a decision based on what I was seeing pre-snap. And so I think that we were really on the same page for a lot of things, and he developed me as a passer and as a quarterback tremendously. And then when you talk about Coach Falds, I mean, Coach Falds is really who I learned a lot of my leadership skills from. He's the best leader that I've ever been around. He's inspired our locker room and has created the culture at Laurier that has kind of brought us to that national championship standard that we want to stay at. And so, just the way that he, leads with passion, leads with purpose, and really inspires the guys in the locker room to play for him has been a great thing for me to be a part of.
So something that makes your journey even more unique and interesting and special is that your Laurier journey began during COVID, as you were just saying there, and lockdown and seasons not being able to take place. Something that I find very interesting, and I've heard you say before in a few interviews, and I was able to have Theo Benedette actually on last spring, and he mentioned of how much he used that time to get better. I think it would probably be very easy for people to, stay stagnant or not, take the opportunity to go out and get better on their own. And I heard you say that you really took that opportunity to kind of grow and develop as a quarterback. Talk about that time where you kind of took it upon yourself to continue to grow and develop as a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of, people that made decisions during COVID on whether you were going to become a better football player or a worse football player during that time. I don't really think that you could take a whole year and say that you're going to stay the same. And so, I kind of took it upon myself that, I was going to use this time to immerse myself in our system and immerse myself in scheme. And I think that I really took big strides during that COVID year in learning the Laurier system, but also understanding university defenses. And so that way, when I came into my first training camp as a freshman, I was ahead of the rest of the guys because I'd already, gone through the exercises to have the playbook down by heart. I knew my reads, I knew my progressions, and now it was just about picking up on the speed of the game and adjusting to the speed of the university game compared to the high school game. And so that was one thing that for me, Coach Galloway was, super important in that process. Like I said, we used to meet every single day over Zoom throughout from the day that I committed to Laurier till my first training camp. We met every day. We talked through concepts. We talked through defenses. We watched film. I had all of our concepts written up on my wall, and I'd go through them when I was very first committed there to make sure that I had everything known by heart. And I think that really allowed me to be a leader when I stepped on the campus. I wasn't trying to play catch up. I was already there with the senior guys, and now I could just step into a leadership role and just develop in that spot. And so I think that was a really important part of my journey.
So 2021, you guys get back to playing some football, and you spend some time during your first few years at Laurier of, being a backup and getting in when you could. And then 2022 happens and you take a more starting role. And 2023, you kind of stepped into the national radar. And I'm sure in the OUA in Ontario, you were kind of well known, and there were starting to be whispers going into that 2023 season. But what was it like for you kind of after, I guess, maybe being able to take a look back at that 2023 season and obviously back-to-back OUA MVPs, as I mentioned. I believe you were second team All-Canadian that season, and come up a little bit short, obviously, as I'm sure a few people are aware. But how special was that for you? And just looking back at it, kind of how fun was that for you that season and just the numbers that you were putting up?
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched a little bit, on all of it, part of my journey, 21, being able to get my feet wet and kind of split some starts there with our starter and learn underneath Connor Carosello was cool for me to, get in there in my freshman year. And 22 was our kind of first year as a group, as a collective, of our young guys kind of stepping into their starting roles. And I think 23 for us was about, we did what we expected to do. Obviously we expected to win a championship in 23 as well. I think after 22, in our playoff game against Carleton, our offense really exploded. And I think we could really, see all those pieces working together and how we'd grown. And we're ready to kind of really, really do something special in 23. And I think that, obviously, like you said, we fell up short, but it was an awesome season. I think we were kind of living up to finally what we expected to do as an offense. I had a great year. Ethan Jordan had a great year. Raiden Thorne had a great year. Our tailbacks had a great year. There was a lot of, the stuff that we'd been putting in, the work and time that we've been putting in was kind of coming to fruition. And so I think that, 23 was as expected for us. Obviously, we would have liked to have, as much production in 22. We kind of got it in bits and pieces in 22, but we weren't, as consistent. And I think that in 23 we were kind of able to, be that veteran group that was consistent week in and week out.
So in 2023, I don't want to say, it's bittersweet losing, because losing obviously always sucks, but maybe take us inside some of the emotion of obviously losing that Yates Cup to Western. I would say maybe the silver lining, or maybe you could find a positive of it, is maybe just the motivation that I'm sure you guys had during, off-season workouts and stuff like that, of just making sure that you guys weren't feeling like that a year from now and making sure that you guys would become Yates Cups champions?
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously, like you said, bittersweet's a tough word because it just is bitter. Losing a championship game that you feel like you should have won, is never something that you want to experience. And I think, we went into that locker room in that Yates Cup up at halftime, and I remember that feeling very distinctly, feeling like, yeah, we're going to take this thing home, and we ultimately didn't finish that football game. And I'll take you to 2048's Cup, where I was standing in our locker room and I was telling everyone, we learned this lesson last year. We've gone through this. We were up at halftime in the 23 Cup and we let it slip. And so just being able to echo that message to my group and remind them that we've been here and now we need to finish the job and we got to play 4 quarters of football. And obviously those things. Every single game you step into that you got to play 4 quarters of football. But I think us being in that situation and having that, haunting memory and that reminder that, we were here, we were up at halftime in the Yates Cup and we didn't get the job done. I think that really allowed us in the second half to know that we had to put our foot on their throat and finish the game out in 24. And I think that, that was all part of, our process to winning the Yates Cup in 24.
All a part of the journey. So, to take a step away from Laurier just for a second, something that I think is really cool that the CFL has implemented is the quarterback internship, and you've been a part of that for, I believe, 3 summers. We're able to go into a CFL training camp, I believe, twice with the Argos and with Hamilton as well. Take us a little bit through that and just the experience you're able to do. I'm sure the tools you're able to take back and add to your toolbox and whatnot, and just I guess maybe as well, just kind of take us through kind of like the timeline. Like, are you in there just for training camp and you kind of come back once Laurier's season starts up and just that kind of Taylor, if
Yeah,
you don't mind.
so I'll start with, I was super blessed. I think I'm the only guy that's been able to do that program 3 times, and I, attribute a ton of my development to that program. I think that I'll start with a little bit of the knowledge of the program. So you come in at rookie camp, and then you stay through final cuts. Well, you can stay for as long as you want, but I think that any quarterback who was really trying to take advantage of the opportunity is going to stay as long as they can, and so I did every single time. So I stayed through final cuts through with 2 years with Toronto and 1 year with Hamilton. And the thing I'll say most about that program is, you get out what you put into that program. These pro teams are in the midst of making cuts. They're in the midst of, installing offenses and getting ready to prep for week 1 and prep for preseason. They have, important decisions to make. And so, if you just sit there and you don't really involve yourself, you're not going to get as much out of it as if you really decide to commit to the process, commit to getting better, and commit to showcasing yourself to these teams. And so I think, for me, that was something that was really important was, from my very first, camp with Toronto and after my freshman year was that, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity. I'm going to be the first guy in the building and be the last guy out. I'm going to learn this playbook. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to challenge these players and these coaches to get me better because that's what I'm here for and that's what I want to do. And I'm basically treated it like I was a part of the team. And I would say that, my experience was unbelievable. The way that I got treated by the staff and the players, they really took me in. I'll give a shout out to Coach Mike Miller in Toronto. He, really put a lot of time into developing me when I was there and both schematically on the board, but technique wise, watching extra film with me. And even, to this day, we still have a great relationship and I still, will call him and talk to him through, big games before the Vanier Cup. We talked for the Senior Bowl. We talked like all those, kind of big moments. He's still there for me. And I think that, those relationships and stuff like that, they never go away. And so, the staffs were obviously awesome, being able to learn from Ryan Dinwiddie in Toronto, Coach Milanovic in Hamilton, and their offensive schemes and how they see the game is really important for young quarterbacks to learn pro playbooks and to develop. And then the last thing I'll touch on is the guys. I mean, the quarterback rooms that you get to be a part of, you get awesome experience. Being a part of 3 different ones for me, each room looked a little bit different each year. I got McLeod in my first year as the starter, Chad in my second year with Toronto as a starter, and then Bo Levi in Hamilton. And so, and there's different guys mixed into all those rooms who played awesome, roles in my development. But just being able to kind of take something from all 3 of those guys and go back to Laurier with it was pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool opportunity. I love hearing those small connections. And as somebody that's kind of maybe not in that world, you kind of realize that people are also just human beings at the end of the day. And they, like you said, coaches just reach out to you leading up to senior bowls and stuff like that. So that's also why I kind of love having a platform like this and hearing some of those stories behind the scenes and whatnot. But to get back into Laurier, Taylor, how special was this past season for you guys? And in 2024, I'm speaking of, you mentioned multiple times of the brotherhood and stuff like that, and being able to win the first Yates Cup, and I believe since 2016, and you beat Bishops in the Utek Bowl, and obviously we'll maybe talk about the Vanier afterwards. But just how special was that the season that you had, the heck Crighton and whatnot, and just to do it with your brothers alongside you.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part for me was being my senior year and being able to do it with that group of guys and the guys that I came in with and the guys that had put in all this hard work with me to kind of elevate this program and bring us to that national championship level and get us to that stage. And I think that it was a very special season for a lot of reasons, but being able to win a Yates Cup at home, getting to go 8-0 and host that thing on our turf this time, being able to have the crowd there and them watch that moment and just the experience of that was something that I'll never forget. And I'm so thankful that I got to do it and reward Coach Folds with something for the trust that he put into me all that time ago, committing to me as I committed to him. And also the guys they put in a lot of trust in me that we were going to get this thing done. And I think that being able to come away with some hardware, ultimately, like you said, falling just short in the Vanier, it's not the hardware we ultimately wanted, but that specific experience of the Yates is something that will always be, super special to this 2024 group. And like you said, getting to go to a national semifinal, and really playing well in that game and being able to showcase a bunch of our guys on the national stage and then getting the opportunity to go play in the national championship is such a special season.
I'm sure because it's so fresh, you maybe not being able to take a chance to kind of look back at what you've done, but is there any early kind of sense of maybe how proud you are of your esports career? Because like you said, you kind of took a path that's maybe least chosen of, going somewhere you could have easily took the path to go to Western and maybe joined up of, the championship pedigree and stuff like that. And you almost fulfilled your destiny in a way of like going to Laurier and bringing that championship pedigree. And, you're obviously going to leave the program in a better place than where you found it. And are you able to? It's only I know a few months since your career has been over, but in a sense of everything you were able to do, man, you should be really, really proud of what you were able to accomplish in the amount of time you were there.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, I think, falling just short of national championship sometimes makes it a little bit difficult to kind of grasp, it all. But I think that, when we had our football banquet and kind of our senior night, and I was able to kind of get up there on the stage and talk, in front of our group and say my goodbye, I think I really kind of took a moment to take this in. And I think, you really hit the nail on the head when you said, leaving this place in the spot that was better than I found it. And I think that was, that's the ultimate goal of any football player, but especially of any quarterback that's trying to come into, a place and change a culture. And for me, that's what it was all about was, you know, um, coming into a school that was, 4-4 when we got here, being able to leave, like I said, our senior season, go 8-0, make to national championship, bring home that hardware to a school that deserves it, being able to look the other guys in the eyes and say, we gave everything we had and we changed this culture for the good. We set the standard of what, this school is going to be moving forward. I think, is something that I'm super proud of above all. I think that's something that means, everything to me. And so, being able to, get up there and talk to those guys one last time and let them know that, this is what we expect moving forward. And this is, the standard that has now been set at this school. And now we expect to stay at the top has been, the most proud thing that I could easily say of my university career.
I'm sure you're getting tired of all the repetitive questions and talking about yourself. So I'm curious about asking you about a few of your teammates, and one of them being Ethan Jordan, who we're going to be seeing at the combine in a few weeks. Of maybe just you could touch on and maybe enlighten some of my viewers of what to expect, and obviously a future CFLer, but also some of the guys that you have in your receiving core that'll be coming up in the future years of Ryan Hughes, Raiden Thorne injured, I know obviously in the playoffs, and some other of your playmakers on Laurier.
Yeah, I'll start with EJ for sure. Ethan Jordan, he's been my guy for the last, 4 years. We've been clicking together, working hard together, and he's a twitchy dude. He's a fast dude. He's always he's one of those guys that when he's running top speed, it looks like he's gliding, but he's flying down the field. And I'll say about EJ is, he's a really smart receiver. He understands, his zone coverage. He understands how to sit in windows. He understands, what looks we're seeing pre-snap and how to adjust his routes so that we were always on the same page. And that was something that was, very beneficial for my, chemistry with EJ, was that, we were often, on the same page in a lot of things because he was understanding the look that he was seeing, and he was understanding how to attack leverage and how to attack zone defenders and how to cater his routes to be quarterback friendly. And so, obviously you see all the success that he's had being an 1,000-yard receiver, multiple time first team All Canadian. And, he, like you said, he's obviously a future CFLer who has a very bright future ahead of him. And so I'm super excited to see where his career goes. And then you talk about a couple other dudes that, I think are really important to talk about. Raiden Thorne has been, with me through this entire process. From COVID, me and him have been throwing together, working hard together. And Raiden is, has extremely high ceiling. He's a long receiver. He has some of the best hands, that I've ever thrown to, and that's including guys in the league. And he rips balls away from DBs, and he's not afraid to go get it. And so being able to have someone like that I trust to win, jump balls, that I trust to win one-on-one matchups, when teams want to put two on EJ, I think was something that was, super, super important for our offense. And then, a couple other guys, we talked about Ryan Hughes. Ryan Hughes was sitting behind Raiden, for the last 2 years, and he's been ready to play, and he's been, that guy. Like Ryan Hughes is going to be someone who's really, really special. And you talk about a future CFL, or even from this point, I don't have any problem publicly saying that I think Ryan Hughes is going to be a future CFLer as well. He is, has that fast twitch. He has those hands. He has, the explosiveness to his game. And we only saw it for 3 games, but you saw the production he put together in just that short amount of time, and he does things the right way, sitting behind a guy like Raiden. But knowing that you're, very capable to go in there in the game and create massive plays like he did. And he didn't say a word. He just worked hard. He was ready when he got his opportunity, and I know that he's going to be ready, next year and moving forward. And then I'll give a shout out to one more dude, Leomi Ojitulayo. He's a captain of our team, and he really sets a standard for that receiver room of what hard work looks like. And I think that you've seen his game evolve, year after year, and the plays that he's able to make when he gets the ball in his hands. I was super blessed with all those guys, on my team, and being able to get the ball into all those guys' hands.
So you finish up this past season, and you start to the social media starts to come out of working with QB Country. And for those that aren't familiar with QB Country, you train some NFL quarterbacks. Bo Nix, New England's quarterback. I'm forgetting Drake May. Talk a bit about what you've been able to do down there, and just playing the game. It's been well documented of Taylor Elgersma, cannon of an arm, but you've said it a few times of the nuances of the game of maybe playing the quarterback position above the shoulders and understanding defenses and whatnot, and what QB Country has maybe been able to do for your development here in the last few months.
Yeah. Quarterback Country has been, unbelievable for me. Being down there in Birmingham, Alabama for times. I went down there a little bit after my 3rd year and spent some time down there with Ben Neal, and Stockton McGuire down there in QB Country. And then I came back to them after, after the senior season, obviously, to prepare for, the Senior Bowl and prepare for, all the things that are coming with that. And obviously, at that time when I went down there, I didn't know that I was going to be going to the Senior Bowl. So I was more preparing for the College Gridiron Showcase. And then I got the invite for the Tropical Bowl. So I went back down to quarterback country. And then from there, obviously got the Senior Bowl invite. And so, being able to work with them not only on, quarterback fundamentals, techniques, mechanics, but also, like you said, on the board, being able to, they provide me with playbooks to learn. They provide me with, defenses and structures to look at, and concepts that we work through together, daily, that improves my, football IQ. And I think that, really showed when I went down to the Senior Bowl, and I was able to, pick up an NFL playbook and work with those guys, and, showcase the teams that, that's not going to be, as big as a challenge as some people think. Obviously there's a transition that's going to happen every single time when you switch from the Canadian game to the American game, or vice versa. But I think going from 12 men on the field to 11 men on the field, going from unlimited motion to limited motion, I think that, they've helped make that transition as easy as it's going to be. And then also just working with me on the footwork part of the game, being in a, 98% gun offense that I've played in throughout my university career, really working with me on the undercenter stuff and the undercenter play actions and the movement patterns from undercenter's drop. So 5-step to 7-step, there's just nuances to that part of the game that they've really been able to work with me on and are going to continue to work with me on as I move forward in the process.
I'm curious, Taylor. It's been out in the headlines of the 3 weeks you mentioned of the bowl games you attended, and just maybe take us through the whirlwind of what you had to do in the, I believe it was a little over 3 weeks of attending all those bowl games opportunities. And I'm sure for you, as maybe tiring as it was, and just going here, there, and everywhere, at the end of the day you're just playing ball, so I'm sure you're enjoying it and having fun and stuff like that. But just what was that experience like for you, just being so unique and attending a prestigious bowl game like the Reese Senior Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was an awesome experience for me. I'm playing football. I'm loving life. My life is football, and that's what ultimately I'm working for my job to be. And so I got a little taste of what that pro life is, being on the road and just learning playbooks, digesting plays, seeing playing against elite competition. But I went down to Alabama a couple weeks before the College Gridiron Showcase in Fort Worth, Texas. And my goal was to train for 2 weeks, get adjusted and get ready to go play in that showcase game. And then from there, I got the invite to the Tropical Bowl, and so I went back to quarterback country, train with them for another week, and then went down to Florida for that showcase game. And then I'd flown home and I'd just put my bags down, unpack my suitcase, and then I got the call that I was going to the Senior Bowl. And so obviously that was a super exciting call, getting on the phone with Jim Nagy and being able to hear him tell me I'm invited. And then so I head back down to Alabama and obviously go play in the Senior Bowl, which was, a first-class event, top to bottom, the way it was run, the events, the coaching staffs, the other players, it was such a memory that'll be in my head forever. Just the entire week. It goes by fast because you're in the moment and you're trying to showcase yourself the best that you can, and you're trying to, you know, um, really dive into playbooks and dive into being with the guys and supporting each other through the week. But it's something that will be a lifelong memory for sure.
Take us through, maybe this is the right way to kind of fit in. Bittersweet, I'm sure it was, to hear the reminders of being Canadian and how cool that is, and how I'm sure prideful that is of being Canadian and being in unfamiliar territory. But the bitterness of probably hearing it over and over again, and just probably being like, man, like I'm just a quarterback, man. Like regardless of I'm from Canada, I can sling the ball. So talk a bit about that, because that's kind of why as well we started the platform here. Is just the you go down in the States and everyone has a podcast, and the football players down there. I've actually heard you talk about it, just the kind of culture of football in the South and stuff like that is just so much different than Canada. And like I said, just being like, man, regardless of where I'm from, I can spin it. So can you just talk a little bit about kind of, I'm sure, the riding that edge of it being cool, but it also being like, I can just play regardless.
Yeah, I appreciate that question because that's something that I haven't really, a question that I haven't really got before, but it's really true. Obviously, I carry a ton of pride and being able to represent this country, and go to a Senior Bowl, an event that, Canadian quarterback hasn't gone to before, and kind of, my journey being able to kind of be part of the group of guys that's helped paving the way for these young Canadian quarterbacks and seeing that there is a way to get noticed from Canada if you can play the game at a high level. And so, obviously that comes with a lot of pride and excitement and enjoyment and being able to rep, our flag down there. But it does also come with, I want to just be viewed as one of the dudes. I don't want my nationality to have an impact on my draft stock. I want people to evaluate me fairly and look at me and compare me, with guys not based on where I'm from, but based on what our physical abilities and what our talents are. And so, I think that, that's one thing that, is an exciting challenge for me, and one that I've tried to take head on and be, honest with teams in interviews and say, I'm, I am who I am. I know I can play down here. I know I can play with these guys, and now it's my job to go out there and back it up. And, if there's people that, think that because I'm from Canada, that means, I can't play with Americans. I think I've tried to do my best to showcase that that's not true, and showcase who I am as a player and a person, and that I will be successful. With whoever team takes a shot on me. And so I think that it's all been part of the journey for me, and part of the journey for these other Canadians that have done this before me. You talked about Theo, you talked about Manu or Chase and Sid. And so obviously some of those guys have gone about it a different way. Some of them have gone down and played, NCAA. But the guys that have played in USports like Theo and Manu, they've done it, and they've kind of been able to take that head on. And so, just because it hasn't necessarily been done the quarterback position yet, I think someone's got to do it. And so obviously Trey did it. Being able to get his starting spot in the CFL and get some exposure to the NFL. And I know he's continuing to work to continue to be the elite pro that he is. And so just being able to follow in those footsteps and go to those places is super exciting.
Well said, number one, and I'm glad, number two, that I could sneak in a question that you haven't been asked. Like I said, you've been very busy and preparing for this, just going through the many interviews you've already done and stuff like that. Try not to get too many of the repetitive questions with also trying to share your story, man. But just really well said, number one, and just it's been cool to kind of watch you. But I'm sure that's been a kind of being like, I'm tired of hearing this already. Like I can play regardless of where I'm from, and just wishing the best of luck. But I'm curious, last two questions for you here, Taylor, and appreciate your time, man, very much so. But what are those interviews like? If you can maybe just take us behind the curtains, and I know you kind of did maybe about 4 or 5 at the College Gridiron Showcase, and a few more at the Tropical Bowl as well. Take us through that, just for some of the fans that maybe they can dream of it and stuff like that. But you were able to kind of live through some of those of some of the questions and stuff like that, and I'm sure it's just a cool experience for you to just talk ball with some of the guys that love talking ball as well, and coaches.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start by saying, there's different types of interviews. Whether you're getting interviewed by a scout or whether you're getting interviewed in a room full of scouts or in front of coordinators or head coaches or GMs or what the room is going to kind of dictate what the interview is like. But I'll kind of go off of the Senior Bowl interviews because I think that was a pretty unique experience that not a lot of guys get to have. So at the Senior Bowl, the quarterbacks get interviewed in groups by the teams. So you'll go into the room. There'll be 4 or 5 teams represented in that room, and you'll kind of be sat in the center with a group around you. There'll be a camera and a microphone so that you can that your interview can be passed on to their scouting directors or their head coaches or whoever is not present at the time. And then the teams can really do whatever they want with you. Some teams want to get to know you as a person. Some teams want to get you on the board. Some teams want to learn about what you've learned in your offense or what you've learned, through the Senior Bowl offense. And some teams want to install something there for you on the spot and say, here's, a player, here's a protection. And then, have you recall information to them or, showcase how quickly you can pick up and learn, NFL offenses. And then there'll be a film portion of the interview where they'll pull up, your film, a lot of times, maybe plays that are, not your best plays and kind of get to know, what you were thinking on this play and want to hear what your answers are on your reads or why you made decisions that you made and kind of get to know how you see football. And I think that that's ultimately what it's all about is the coaches want to know who you are as a player. They want to know who you are as a person. If they want to bring you into their locker room, they want to, feel comfortable that you can go in there and represent their team well outside of football, but be able to excel within their locker room. And so I think, teams can really go about it however they want. And it's obviously intense, but I think that is a part of the process that I, enjoyed more than anything, getting able to be in the room with those people and showcase my football knowledge.
All right, Taylor. Last one for you. Let us know what are the plans for the rest of the off season. You're training. I'm sure you're going to be maybe holding a pro day yourself. If you're going to maybe be attending the National CFL Combine and all, and just fill us in on what's ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, obviously training right now. I'm gonna be doing a pro day and trying to showcase that some of that footwork stuff that I talked about is continuing to develop in my game, and so that's a big emphasis of my training right now is improving the under center footwork, improving my foot speed, improving explosiveness, and continuing to work in the American playbook and in the Canadian playbook so that I can continue to interview really well with these teams and showcase my knowledge of the game and and develop on the board and be ready to go attack a pro offense when I get into it, in a couple months here. And so, I think that I'm working obviously with quarterback country. I'm working with, some guys down here in Canada too. Nick Arbuckle from the Argos, I've been spending a little bit of time with, training with him and some of those receivers, just working on timing of routes and like I said, that footwork and that board work, and to be best prepared for the pro day. And then when you talk about the combine, I'll be, doing the pro day stuff, so I won't be going to the combine, but I obviously have a bunch of dudes that are going there. And so I'm super excited to see how those guys, perform on that stage. But I'm excited to, interview with CFL teams as well. I've been, fortunate enough to talk to a bunch of them, and I think that, hopefully they'll, be able to watch some of the film that they saw at the Senior Bowl and the games that I've, already kind of played in throughout this time. And I'm excited for, opportunities on both sides of the border when it comes to professional ball.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, first and foremost, Taylor, thank you so much because, like I said, I know how busy you've been and probably wanted to get home and just take a deep breath and not get asked the same questions again. Secondly, man, just wanted to wish you the best of luck in the future, and on behalf of everybody at CFF and all of our fans and whatnot, I'm sure they're going to be excited to get this one. Bright future ahead, man, and you got fans at us over here on the West Coast, and looking forward to hearing your name called here in the spring, man. So it was really fun, kind of getting to talk to you. Hopefully, we can maybe link up in the future again.
Awesome, for sure. It sounds like a plan.
Oh,
I had a great time.
awesome. So if you guys enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to like, leave a comment as well, subscribe, press the notification bell. You guys will get notified every single time we upload any sort of content here on the channel. Taylor, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Of course.
That was fantastic. Episode 37 done right there, folks. Taylor Elgersma joined the program. Man, was that a lot of fun. I really enjoyed hearing more about Taylor's journey. As I was saying there on the episode, it was hard to kind of ask some of those questions to get him to talk more about his journey with kind of not being too repetitive. And he's been very busy, as I mentioned, of some of the programs that he's already appeared on, not only in the past 6 weeks, but dating back, I'd say probably a year, dating back to I know Three Down had him on before the start of the year, and I think what is it, Crown Gridiron Nation had him on before the season as well, or maybe even in the Yates Cup around the playoff time. So um, it was walking that fine line of wanting to ask some of those same questions because wanting to hear some of those answers again and getting them out on our platform, but not wanting to bore him too much and get some fresh kind of content from Taylor Elgersma. So I, for one, really, really enjoyed that. Episode 37 right there in the books, folks. Like I said, leave a like, leave a comment down below. Let us know what your favorite part of the episode was. Let us know who you guys would like to see on future episodes. Let us know if you guys have a question for Taylor. Like I said, hopefully we can have him back on in the future. Do a watch along for the combine, not the invitational, but will be the national in March. But Taylor's a busy man, so I don't want to hold him to it. If he's obviously open to it, his schedule is available, then we'll definitely get him on. But I know once we get into March and April there, he'll be maybe making some trips down to Alabama and want to go down to QB country. And like he was saying there, doing his combine and, doing his pro day. He won't be going to the combine or doing any of the NFL combine and whatnot. Maybe he's going down to Alabama, doing some training down there. So that was freaking tastic. Gotta watch it. I gotta watch that. I can't swear. We have some future announcements coming on the channel where you, I guess, might be able to watch some of our content. So stay tuned for that, a little teaser for the end of the episode. But last few reminders for you guys here before we get out of here for episode 37. Please be sure to follow on our social media platforms at Canadian Football Fanatics on Instagram. We are at, let's check it out actually, 1,743 followers over on Instagram. Let's try to get that over 2,000 in the coming months. Let's check out Twitter. I think we are just under 200, if I'm mistaken. Oh, we're just over 227 followers on the Twitter. That is at _ CF Fanatics on Twitter, or X, whatever the kids are calling it these days. And of course, you guys can find us at Canadian Football Fanatics on YouTube. We're up over 300 subscribers. Let's go. We are officially at 306. So let's try to push that to 400 and then 500 and beyond, folks. When you guys subscribe, press the notification bell. You guys get notified every single time we go live here on the channel. And lastly, one more ad read for our beautiful people over at Area 51 Sports. For all your football needs, folks, this episode is brought to you by Area 51 Sports, your one-stop shop for all your football needs, whether you're looking for top-notch footballs, helmets, shoulder pads, cleats, gloves, or even flag football gear, and custom uniforms. Area 51 Sports has got you covered. Trusted by athletes at every level, they are dedicated to helping you play your best. Gear up and dominate the field with Area 51 Sports. Visit their website today at area51sports.ca and take your game to the next level. And as I said, Taylor Elgersma, today's episode guest, has an NIL deal with Area 51 Sports. I believe this past season he wore shoulder pads provided by them and some other gear, I think, provided by Area 51 Sports and all the fine people over there, Carlo being one of them. Big shout out to all of them for becoming the first sponsor here. Hopefully you guys like the graphic. Hopefully the ad reads aren't too long. Got to slip them in there. Only a minute, so they can't be that annoying. And you got to support Area 51 Sports for all your football needs. Head over there, folks. So I think that's going to do it for episode 37, and we will catch you guys on the next one.